Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, the technology podcast for the curious and creative in the AECO and beyond. And as you know, or maybe you don't, we're smack dab in the middle of Series 3, which means we don't really have a topic, but we have some amazing guests. AECO Mavericks Unscripted, as we like to call it. And there's no better Maverick than we have this week, Jeff, or as everyone knows him, the Revit Kid. So John and I are excited to have Jeff on the podcast, and we're really going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about content and how we make it all in our different ways and different technologies. And I think that's a great intro to what we're doing today. But Jeff, I'll hand over to you to sort of tell us everyone, not that you need to, but a little bit about yourself before we hop in.
Sure. Hey guys, Carl and John, thanks for having me on. You guys have both been guests on my show, so I'm always happy to return the favor. Yeah, so my name is Jeff Pinheiro. I'm a licensed registered architect here in the state of Connecticut. I've actually this year, I think in August, marked my 20th year working in the AEC industry. So for anyone who may have followed me along all this time, I actually started working in an architecture firm when I was 16. And that's the only jobs I ever had was in architecture and construction. And yeah, this is so I've been doing it for 20 years, and I believe this is also the 15th year of since the inception of the Revit Kid blog. So started as a blogger, and then sort of still blog as a way to hold all that information in one little area, but sort of expanded into YouTube, making videos, making courses, and then I also run an online community called BIM After Dark Community, where place to host all the courses, but also basically a noiseless social feed for Revit users to help each other out and learn about Revit and associated technologies. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, I also run a YouTube channel and a live stream where Carl and John, I think John, you've been a multiple guest, I believe. I forgot how many times now. I probably should look before we jumped on it, but we're on episode 119, I think, coming up of the live stream. So that's been about 3 or 4 years happening now.
Nice. I love the term you used of noiseless social feed.
Yeah.
We sort of think the idea of social media, and that's a part to what all of this plays, is a way to get the message out there. But sometimes it's nice to have that message with like-minded people that are gonna, they're gonna comment something relevant as opposed to, buy my sardines or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because the community actually is almost 4 years old. I will say the push towards both the live stream and the community, I was thinking about them for a couple of years before actually doing it, was the pandemic. And, the idea behind the community was actually at the time, 4 or 5 years ago, Facebook private groups were huge, right? And I'm sure everyone's probably been on a Facebook private group in the last 10 years or so. And there was a lot of really great things happening in private groups on Facebook. And so I actually did have one for the Revit Kid, and we started sort of doing some stuff over there, but I couldn't live on Facebook as my platform, right? It just did it. There wasn't enough control. It was still Facebook. And thankfully, over time, I'm glad I made that decision. No offense to people who are still using Facebook, but I don't actually use it anymore either. But that was the concept was I needed a place to host my coursework. So I've been making online courses since 2013. And one of the things I bootstrapped it. So it was very much you bought the course, you got a zip file with some videos and sample files, and you can go on your merry way. But there was no way for me to sort of see if people were actually viewing the tapes or the videos. I really have much follow up with customers, depending on what they use for emails and stuff. And there wasn't really much interaction. So people were buying the crap out of these videos, but I had no idea if people were actually watching them. And so that was kind of the idea behind it. And then, of course, I think social media has a valuable place in our life, but we all know that there's a ton of noise on social media, regardless of Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Like you have to really look to find what you want, and really you almost learn how to filter it out. So creating a space where that environment exists, where you can say, hey, I can't figure out how to propagate extents of this grid. Can you help me out? And then having just a small group of core people responding and interacting has been massive. And it's funny because 4 years later, my initial thought was this is a place to host courses, to update content easily, and then the social side will be sort of the side benefit. But the truth is, I think most people that you talk to that are in the community, have been there for a long time, will say that the reason that they're there and they stay there is because of the actual social feed part of it and not the coursework, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think
Sure,
that
and it's oh,
you go,
sorry.
you go.
I was gonna say that it's really interesting too, the comment about Facebook groups, because like I'm the same way. So I'm part of a car club and
Yeah.
it's so easy just to host it for free, you know, especially when it's something where getting money together is hard.
Mhm.
And I had to create a Facebook account just to be on my Facebook group for the car
Right.
club. So I
Right.
was
And then
always like,
as a creator, let's say you're the person hosting that, right? All of that information is Facebook's, not yours, right?
yep,
So let's say Facebook decides to just kill that group for no reason. You've lost all those members, and maybe you don't even have a way to contact them, right? And so you're at the behest of that platform, for better or worse. But there was also, at the same time, just like you're saying, I was part of a few groups that were super valuable, and I enjoyed the interaction within that little section of the group. So yeah, so I figured I'll make my own version of that, and then instead of sign up for Facebook, you sign up for the platform and just become part of the one BIM After Dark community.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think the other thing is that the as time goes along and all these things come into play, the creators have become more savvy, and there's so many more platforms out there
Mhm.
to allow you to be able to do that, to create your community, create a place to store your content, to create the ability to have all of that in one spot.
Mhm.
And it allows you to control the narrative of what you're sharing. And I think that's one of the big things is that when people come to you to join your community, listen to your podcast, whatever it might be, it's because of you and the guest and that content. So they're not getting bombarded with other messages, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it's
Mhm.
distracting from the original message that brought them there.
Correct. Yep. But the truth of it is that you can't exist only in that bubble. You have to also exist in the other bubble, because you need people to find you. And whether that's for me as a content creator and an educator of all things Revit and associated, or whether you're an architect and you want to sell the services of being an architect, right? You need to exist in the Wild West with all that noise in order to actually get people to find you, and then maybe get them into the private, comfort of your community.
Yep, 100%.
one thing I think is really cool too is the office hours that you share outside of the community. I thought that's
Mm.
always been like a really cool byproduct as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that was almost an accident. And so, and actually we just had last week, it was office hour 95, I think. So, I mean, I've in 4 years, I try to hold them every 2-ish weeks. It's it's me, so I try and keep flexible for my own schedule. But so pretty much every 2 weeks, it's a Zoom call just like this, and it's whoever wants to join from the community. And that is it's obviously great for the community members, because if there's something that we're chatting, even a lot of times it's a topic that maybe there was a post about, and it's just one of those things where it just makes sense to just jump on a call and show, right? And instead of trying to respond, via text in a chat, even with snips and stuff. But other times it's just we jump on, and like last week there was 9 people on it, so it's just me and 9 other people, and it was just kind of, what's on your mind. And then, there's out of nine Revit users, there's always going to be at least one who's struggling with something, right? I mean, like, and so, the last week it was something with, I think it was general notes, and trying to figure out a better way other than just a giant text box to manage like a general notes thing. So we just kind of riffed on it. Some people gave in their ideas and so on. And then, I mean, the one thing, and I guess this kind of goes to the broader discussion that you're talking about, Carl, is like, you know, everything, everything can be content, right? And so, the one thing that I've sort of grown into over the years, and some of the people I follow online that are not at all Revit architecture related are people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Pat Flynn. They used to be the Fizzle Show, like these content creator people. And if no one knows who those people are, just feel free to Google them. You'll see. And most of them, Gary Vee is a great example where, his content not relatable at all to our industry, but relatable globally to everything, right? He has a marketing company, but he basically has a full-time videographer that follows him around in his daily life, like literally all day long, everywhere. And then he just and he's publishing like 35 pieces of content a day. But the key there is like, his message is always just like, yeah, like I'll take he's a multimillionaire with plenty of followers, hundreds of million followers across all the social, but he'll take an interview with a brand new podcast, to not just to help that podcaster, let's say, because maybe they seem like a good person or whatever, but also now he's got content for his own channel, right? And so like, you know, as much as I love doing what I do and speaking and being on a show like this, is like at the same time, all of that stuff can be reused as content for social media and so on and so forth. And those can also be not only beneficial to people, because usually they are, there has to be value there, but then also it's a way to get yourself in front of all these different eyes, because that's really what it's all about.
The eyes have it, I believe, is what they say, right?
Right. And those office hours are a great example. Like I just did them, recorded them, kept them in the community, and then in time I realized, wait a minute, this is silly. These are awesome. I think at one point in time I was actually like re-recording as like a video tutorial. And I would like, it's like, oh, that was a good idea. And then I would like record myself like my normal thing. And I was like, no, why would I do this? Just let's, you know,
Right,
and then so
it.
yeah. And so I kind of make sure that the community is okay with it, because a lot of times their faces might be on the Zoom call, but for the most part, it's there now. So it's just a matter of, you know, and then it also becomes a way to sort of sell the idea of the community too. Like, hey, if this is something you'd love to jump on a Zoom call every 2 weeks, you know, to talk about the stuff, then here's the place you can do it. Plus, again, it's usually, you know, I wouldn't post it if it wasn't valuable content. And odds are, if someone on the Zoom call is asking about it, there's plenty of other people in the world that are asking the same question.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, some of the, like, even speaking for myself, some of the videos I've posted, like, you'll create a tutorial that has like intro, outro stuff, all this editing going on. I've recorded stuff where I'm just working for 20 minutes to answer a question.
Yeah.
And I post that video just raw. That one gets more traction than some of the ones I put effort in, like scripting out and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, it's crazy how that works sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, as the content creator inside me, because I guess that's what I am, right? Even though it's kind of weird as a licensed architect with all this regular day job stuff as a professional, like I'm actually a content creator too, and I do consume it. Like if you look at the books behind me, there's 3 types of books behind me. There's sci-fi novels, because I love sci-fi. There's architecture books, because of course I'm an architect and I love, you know, I've put a few firms back there that I love their work, and then there's business books, and those are the only 3 that are back there, right? And so I've been, you know, as much as I do this, create this stuff, I'm sort of like a student of the content creation society for years as well. And one of the things that, it's funny you said that, John, that I think might have been actually Pat Flynn, who I mentioned. Again, he runs a site called Smart Passive Income. He also does a couple of different other channels now.
Former architect as well.
He's a former architect as well, yes. Yeah. And I think that's how I found him, because I believe I used his study guide back in 2008. He made a lead study guide, and somehow that transitioned into. So I give a lot of credit to him for what I've done, just because he had a great structural framework of how to monetize content creation, but then also continue giving content and, you know, in a very authentic way, right? And that's one thing I've always wanted to do with my channel. But one of the things that I think it might have been him, maybe it was somebody just within the sphere that was mentioning in a recent video, is I think the days of the fast, high, you know, the high produced, you know, fast cuts and really produced videos is actually almost not, maybe not ending, but I think it's not as required as before, right? You know, you look at the Mr. Beasts and the really like big high end channels, and it was for a while, even I was like, I need to, like, these need to be like highly polished productions in order to succeed. And then, but the point they're making now is like, no, like it's almost like now the it was like quality over quantity or content before. Now it's like content over quality or whatever. And it's kind of shifting a little, but at the same time, there's the connection between sort of a short videos and long videos, and how those play in between, you know, getting attention versus gaining attention versus whatever. But I have to say the same thing. Like, you know, I have some of the most watched videos on my channel are the least produced videos on my channel, because that's, you know, that's the quality, I guess, the value of the value of the content itself.
And I think that leads back to what John said, and you sort of followed up on that, Jeff, is the idea that, you know, I spend all this time, I polish this intro, outro, all of this stuff, but this, you know, quick one-off 20-minute video of me doing something gets more hits. But the idea is that you've spent 15, 20 years perfecting the skill that you showed in that. Right. And so the fact that you can do that in 20 minutes is a whole day for someone else. And so there's the value in that. So it's not just a quick one-off video. It's a one-off video where you're showing your value, even though for you it's something you do all the time, so it doesn't seem like that. And I think that's why they get the hits. It's the content. But we're also in an industry where the technical get into the weed stuff is what people want. So that doesn't always require the polish. It's nice to have both, but, you know, sometimes the flash brings them in.
Yeah, well, I think that's the kicker of it all, is you have to, you know, even as much as that is true in the sense of once you get into the content, it's the actual content that probably matters, especially in our industry with architects and engineers where everyone's very detail oriented. But there's still the packaging that needs to be correct to get them into the content. And so as much as it's not may not be the most fun for people to do or it's very markety, but the thumbnail, the headers, that kind of stuff, the SEO, the first 5 minutes or 5 seconds of a video, like that stuff is very important though, because even to your point, John, like that video, if it was just the screenshot of you with your face with no other text or anything, and you had like, video clip number 2 as the title, nobody would see it, right?
Yeah.
so as much as, there's a balance between which part is actually produced, so to speak, and which part's not. So that's something I've experimented with a lot over the years. I mean, YouTube actually technically has probably only been a focus of mine for maybe 4 years, right? When I started the live stream is really when I focused on YouTube. Before that, YouTube was just a way to host my videos for the blog.
For the blog post.
It was a free way to host the videos because, all these other sites were pretty expensive at the time to host tutorials on the blog. But once I started doing the live stream and then started sort of digging into some of the strategy, so to speak, for YouTube, and then, I mean, there's a noticeable, if I was to pull up the graph of 5 years or something like that, there's a very noticeable jump in sort of views and subscribing and everything. And that's when I started doing things like paying attention to the thumbnail, the title, the SEO stuff, and then also the first, whatever the algorithm wants now, the first 10, 30 seconds of the videos, because you could also get them to click, but YouTube's smart enough, Google's smart enough to know that, like, you can make a really clickable thumbnail, and then if people drop off in the first 10 seconds, it may not be a very good video. So the algorithm won't be very nice to you. And so there's, there's sort of all that stuff that adds to it. Me personally, I geek out on that stuff. I think it's cool, right? And then the data side of it, you can see if it works. There's a bunch of tools out there that let you A/B test stuff. So like you might actually see a different cover than Carl one day, on your recommendations, and it's just testing like what works and what doesn't. So I geek out on it. Some people might not like it, but unfortunately it does matter. Like, it does matter.
Yeah. And so you are kind of like playing the YouTube game these days with like the thumbnails and everything.
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
And, very cool.
And if you've paid attention or followed me over the years, you'll probably notice, and you could probably just scroll through the video history of the last like 5 years. You'll notice a change in the thumbnails, testing things out. Even when I do the live stream, one of the things, it seems very subtle, right? But the live streams, the way I do them is, they're live and then they're immediately live on YouTube. I don't pull them down, edit them, and republish them. Some people do. Supposedly that's actually better for the algorithm, not better for my time as a very busy person.
Oh, yeah.
So what I've done is, like, normally the live stream, the intro used to be, it would be the intro video, the intro text with the music. And then, 10, 15 seconds in, I'll say, hey, good morning, what's going on? Welcome to episode, whatever. But I've actually started flipping that, and I start immediately with, here's what this episode is going to be, right? And then I jump into the music, and that's very intentional because it's thinking about not just the live people, because the people that are there live are probably going to hang out the first 20 seconds. They showed up at 9 p.m. on whatever night it is, right?
And they're in the chat.
Right, they're in the chat. They're probably not going to drop off immediately. But the future state of it is, here's a video about Aaron Mahler talking about templates. You want them to jump in and stay in order to get that video watched by as many people as possible.
I've even seen like some of the Mr. Beast stuff. They're sweating over the hover preview. So like you hover on the thumbnail in that first little preview. They're thinking about that even. And it's like,
it can get like paralyzing, right? I mean, with everything, right? If you start getting into it, but at the same time, it is pretty cool. So I do dabble into it. It's I don't get to the point where it's that, like, I stop myself, because you can only go so far. But yes, that's
very cool.
When you're talking about hundreds and millions of subscribers with hundreds and millions, if not billions of views, then yeah, he's got, Mr. Beast probably has a team of 20 people that the only job they have is thumbnails and titles, that kind of stuff. So
for sure,
I don't have that kind of budget.
Well, then, so as someone that's almost at 100,000, you're getting close. Are you still your thumbnails, editing videos, responding to comments? You're doing all of it.
All of it. Yep. So
awesome.
I respond to every single comment on YouTube, unless it's obviously not going to be responded to. We all know what kind of comments those are.
Pivot.me.
Yeah. No, I respond to every single one. I'm still playing around with with thumbnails and titles and trying different things. I use a tool called TubeBuddy. So there's a bunch out there. I forgot some of the other ones, but TubeBuddy is a plugin for Chrome. And so if I was to go onto YouTube right now, it looks a little different than yours. I have analytics of all the videos next to all my videos when I'm watching them, and people, other channels too. It's pretty cool. And then also it helps with, it'll give you ratings for like SEO and whatnot. It's been awesome. It makes you think about it as you're doing it. I would say that right now I'm not using it as much because, you know, I kind of know how to get to their 100% SEO score when I'm making a video, so I don't use that. But it does, it'll do A/B testing right inside of YouTube. So if I wanted to take the title of a video and try two out, I can just click A/B test, you know, type in the two titles, and it'll automatically do like for whatever, 7 days, 14 days, whatever it is, and then it'll tell you the best performing title. Same with the images and so on and so forth. It does have a keyword explorer. I've dabbled in that a little bit. I would say what helps with the keyword explorer is if you want to see the potential competition to that video for the keyword, it's very nice at being able to show you that. Doesn't really change much of what you're doing, in my opinion. Like it's if you're gonna do the keyword, you're gonna probably hit the keyword. Maybe you modify it a little bit, but yeah. So I have paid attention to all those things. I mean, again, when I started the live stream, I think I was at 18,000 subscribers, right? So that was 3.5, 4 years ago, and so now we're at 92,000. Crossing our fingers for the plaque, even though it's a complete vanity metric. It means nothing. It's still just one of those things where I'm so close now that I just want to get the damn plaque.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, I think you have to pay attention to those things to grow it. But at the same time, I think if you just were aware that they were there and didn't geek out as hard as I did, I still think you probably could do okay if you have at least the basic formula down and then you're consistent with your content.
Seems like consistency is going to be like one of the biggest ones for sure.
Yes.
Is like you're just naturally uploading weekly or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Just because like I've watched a lot of different channels too, and they always echo that as consistency is a big one.
And it's the hardest one to do.
Oh, dude.
Thumbnails, descriptions, titles, those are easy compared to being able to publish regularly on all kinds of channels, whether you're just talking YouTube or you're talking YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, right? Having consistent publishing is it's a lot of work. It's kudos to people that do it, right? I mean, it's a challenge, and that's part of the reason why I like the live stream is it helps me be consistent it's obviously a lot of time to set up before and after, but it's something that keeps me on track to a very specific thing. The one thing I will say for anyone thinking about the live streaming side of it is the algorithm is still not as friendly to live streaming as it is to regular published videos. And so technically I probably should just do a live stream, pull it down, republish it just so that it's in the regular queue instead of the live part of my channel. But I kind of like how the chat remains and stuff like that after the fact, and
that live replay is really cool.
Yeah, you get to see sort of the interaction and a lot of times where people are reacting to the live stream. So I like it, but I will tell you that, and this is just me completely guessing, but if I did all 119 episodes, took them down and republished them as regular publish and maybe even as like 2 or 3 videos each, my guess is that I would have hit $100,000 or 100,000 subscribers a lot quicker. Just algorithm based.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind, and you both brought it up, the idea of consistency. Everybody's talking about consistency, but in this game of content, consistency doesn't necessarily mean what it used to mean, which meant that you had to have a post every day or a post every week. And I know from the 2 years that I worked with Bill and Dana on BIM Thoughts, we did an episode every week, and I found that with this series where we do 6 episodes and there's a theme and people know that there's 6 episodes and then it goes away and then it comes back, as long as they know what that consistency is for you, that works as well. Yes, there's definitely a lull when you're not making content, but when you create new content, all of your past content becomes available, and I see an uptick every single time. It all comes back, and it means that there's more sanity for those of us running it all the time. Because as you mentioned, you're doing all the things, Jeff, but you also have a real full-time job as well. And so when you mentioned Mr. Beef, Mr. Beef, different conversation. Mr. Beast, there's a whole team being paid very well to do all of that stuff.
Yes.
And you're doing it from the geek out side as well as, the extra little bit that it brings in, but it's not the job. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is that we all got down this road of content because we had things we wanted to share with the community. Or for me personally, I started my blog because I would run across something very valuable, like a content from you, Jeff, that I would want to save. And by putting it into a blog format, I have an ongoing record that's always there for me to find that going through. And some of it's a little dated now because the way our industry works and technology sort of changes so quickly. But the ability to do that, so different reasons for what consistency means, I guess, is what I wanted to put out there for the people that are following
and I
along.
also think when I think of that, and this is where I'm even struggling to this day, is when I hear somebody like the people I follow talking about publishing five social media posts a day, whatever it is, right? And so like it's a matter of what is your intention with those posts, right? And so when I'm thinking about a video, I'm trying to produce the most amount of value to the viewer as possible, right? I want them to learn something. It's not just, hey, what's going on? Here's my shelf behind me. It's wanting to learn something. But there's another side of it where, if I posted right now, if I tweeted, right, there's, I don't know, 7,000-8,000 people, whatever, following me on Twitter, right? And then beyond, I guess, the For You, if someone actually goes outside of their For You page, or which I hope at this point in time you're staying within your following, because on Twitter it's a rough space outside of your following. But if I was to post it right now in a tweet, and maybe there's a chunk of value in it and stuff, still only a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 of those 8,000 see it. And no one's going through the history of Twitter looking at it, maybe on once in a while, but not really. And so there's something to be said for always sort of the appearance of always being there, right? And or being everywhere or whatever it is, right? And so that's where I think the consistency also helps is, when you jump on Twitter, when you jump on YouTube, right? You're recommended, which is where like 90% of your views are going to come from, right? Subscribers and recommended is basically it, right? And recommended gets more than subscribers. I think if I went on right now, I think 70% of my views for today were probably from the recommendation page, right? Which is the first 20 videos you see. There's something to be said about always seeing the same person's videos there, right? Always seeing it. And so the easiest way to do that is to have stuff constantly popping up and constantly making it. And so it's a balance, because it's like, well, if I got to that point, are you sacrificing quality just so that you're there all the time, or are you not, right? And so there's a balance to be had there. But that's another thing too, that I think if you're planning on trying to become sort of a content creator or grow a following within it, I think you have to be comfortable repeating yourself too, is something that I know is even I struggle with still today. It's like, well, I already made a video on that. But you're like, you know what? Not, only 2,000 people out of 96,000 actually watched the video. So maybe it's okay to make a video of it 2 years later on the exact same thing. You might approach it a little differently, but and the same thing with a tweet, right? I just tweeted about that yesterday. Well, it's like only 200 people saw it. So it's okay to tweet about it again today. Like, and that's one of those things where like, I'm still even to this day trying to get to comfortable with the fact that like, it's okay to repeat yourself. It's okay to maybe not have your absolute 100% A+ quality content just for the sake of being there, so to speak.
For sure. And I think repeating yourself too, there's like a lot of tools that help with that. So like, I struggle with paying for some of these freaking tools though, but there's one called Typefully, to where you write it once and you push to LinkedIn, to Twitter, to Mastodon, to Threads, to all these freaking things.
Yeah.
And then they also do some of these things where they auto repost it the next day. So you repost it yourself, so it kind of repeats it for you, which is kind of nice. It's
I think the one thing, the one thing that's hard with all of that, and I tried, anyone who is on TikTok, for example, I do have a TikTok, and I pushed pretty hard on it a year or two ago. I actually haven't posted in a while, but there's also like, I made a short, basically, right, 60-second short of shorts of different videos, right? I know, John, you've done it too. And like, I post the same exact short on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. And yeah, they do okay here or there, whatnot. But the truth is, you kind of need to create the content specifically for that environment, right? Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, right? The LinkedIn, right? It's a completely different voice. And that's the part that I think can get overwhelming. It's like,
Yeah.
if I made it once and reposted it 6 places, that's pretty easy to do, right? But if I need to make it 6 times because it should be a little bit different for each of
Different
those.
aspect ratios. My God. Like
Yeah, aspect
vertical.
ratios, but the way the copy is, the way the message may be routed, even the captions, like different things will land differently, I think, on the platforms
Yeah.
you're on. And so that can be overwhelming. But at the same time, if you're in a growth mode and that's what you want to do, then that's what you got to think about. And whether it's you take one and focus on it for a little while, whether you try to hit them all, I'd probably suggest focusing on one at a time and seeing which ones you like the best and maybe that suit your voice the best, and then just lean into those. Right. For me, it was YouTube, obviously. And then I do like Twitter for just, again, as long as you stay in your bubble, it's a very nice place.
Yeah.
And then I have to say, TikTok has, it's grown on me as a user. I try my best to like stay in these environments for a little bit to feel what it's like. I can see the addiction, first of all, but I can also see the value to pieces of it. And now that they've added a lot more long term and stuff like that, but it definitely feels like long form, like a YouTube video that's 20 minutes long is a way better way to build an audience than TikTok, in my opinion. I feel like the
Yeah.
audience, you have there will be it'll be less transactional, much more invested in the content you're in the stuff you're saying, in my opinion. I go on TikTok, I might see a really cool video of like a car or something like that, right? And then if I didn't bookmark it or follow or something like that, because I don't really follow people
Oh,
on
you might
TikTok.
never see it again.
Right. I know you're searching, you're like, I don't know what this was.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's like, unless you become like uber viral with something or other, then I think it's a lot harder to build. And it was pretty, I mean, honestly easy, but the TikTok, I haven't checked in a while, but the TikTok channel I created probably has 6,000 or 7,000 followers, which may not be a lot for TikTok, but like that's for me, I haven't posted video. I did like a real big stint of a lot of stuff, and then I haven't posted for a while. And so I think, but out of that number, like 6 or 7 followers on TikTok versus 6 or 7 subscribers on YouTube, I bet there's a major difference between the what those can do for you as a brand or for you as a company.
So I struggle with like on like Instagram Reels or TikTok or anything like that. YouTube Shorts, I kind of see it being useful, but I struggle with like someone scrolling through and they're seeing recipe videos and all this crap, and then they're like, "Oh, that's how you add grip handles to doors. I'm gonna watch this." Like I struggle with like someone being on Instagram being pumped about like my Dynamo videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but they're there, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're there, right? They're there, but yeah, it's hard to imagine that, the audience that you think may actually be flipping through TikTok, but I think they're everywhere, right? It's just a matter of, and again, it's the algorithms are very interest based now, right? So like,
Yeah.
and that's what TikTok is. It's an interest based algorithm. It's not who you follow. It's what you show interest in via whatever methods they have. And so if that's the case, then at some point in time, somebody might actually follow, or stumble across your stuff, right? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, Dynamo is very specific. Obviously, Revit can be very specific too, but I'm sure there's a huge, I forgot what it was back when I was doing it, but like, the hashtag architecture students or something was like 1.2 billion, people following that hashtag, that kind of stuff. So like, there's, I think hashtag that's Revit was a little less, but it wasn't an insignificant amount. It was like 600,000 or 700,000 or something like that. Following the
People
hashtag.
out there have to use these tools.
Yeah. So I wouldn't discredit that. I think you find. I think whatever place that you're most comfortable existing in right now as a user of the platform, that's probably where you start with. And then from there maybe you can venture out. But I would say, because then you're the most qualified to know what content or how to tailor the content for that.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's valuable advice, and I think one of the things that we haven't talked about here, and we're getting close to the end, so this may be an extra episode down the road. But we've talked a lot about content, how we got to the content, where to share the content. But I think one of the things that was missed from all of this conversation that all of us applied to is the idea of brand. It becomes to that there's a brand applied to that. Why are you giving the content that you're giving? Why did you get there? And for all of us, again, we didn't get into this thing. Okay, I woke up, I saw this guy, Mr. Beast on YouTube, is making a ton of money. I'm going to become a content creator. That's not how any of this happened. At least I don't think so.
No.
But through wanting to share, wanting to learn, other people are doing the same things. You go, hey, that's a really great way to share stuff that I have. let's go down that road, and then that leads to a brand which brings people in and sort of comes from there, as opposed to somebody else where the brand comes from the content. For all of us, I believe it's been the flip side of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself. I mean, I did YouTube videos, or videos on the blog, I should say, for almost 5 years, I think, before I even realized that I could monetize it. I mean, it was 2009 to I think 2013 is when I started actually selling my first course, like selling, like I was like, oh my God, I can make money off this. Who would have thought? And again, it was really just, at that time I spent 5 years giving everything away for free, right? And now 15 years later, I'm still doing that, right? But then there's also something to be said for curating the content. I would argue that a majority of the stuff in my full courses is already available online somewhere in my content, right? Somehow, some way, but it's not curated and packaged in it. And as far as the brand is concerned, to your point, Carl, like, yeah, and I think actually if someone's interested in checking out the conversation I had on the live stream a year or two ago with Eric Reinholdt, who's 30 by 40 design studio. The architects out there probably follow him on YouTube. And we talked exactly about this, about, giving it away for free or giving away all your secrets and stuff. And there's a few things that I kind of say that, I mean, there's very few things that like you could probably get a trademark on when you're talking about like Revit processes. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're probably not the only person who has a solution for this or something. But there's also something you said, like, I mean, I could literally give away the formula, right? I mean, I have in the past of how to do this, and 97% of the people aren't going to actually act on it too. So like, but also if more people did, then it's just creating a bigger pool of information for everyone to use, which I think is great. But there's no, giving. I don't even think about it as giving away for free. It's I want people to know this, right? I want people to. I mean, I was thinking about this on the drive home, because my sort of evolution of what I do for a living, and on top of the video side of it, and how the content's kind of changed. And like in the beginning, I started the Revit Kid for two reasons. One was I was sick of answering the same questions in my studio class all the time. And so I literally would post videos and then send links to my classmates. That was why I started it, because they would send me the same goddamn questions. It was 2008 or something like that. And it was like the beginning of everyone starting to kind of use Revit. And it was just getting so annoying to answer the same one. So I was like, let me just record this, because so many people asked the same question and they went down. And then it kind of morphed into, I wanted everyone to use Revit. I was super excited about this tool, right? I was this young, ambitious, wannabe architect going through the process of school and studio and working. And I just thought this was the coolest tool ever. Like, I can do plans, sections, elevations, and renderings all in the same tool while building this 3D model, all this other stuff, right? And slowly over time, it's kind of even transitioned beyond that. It's like, okay, that was where I was at that point in time. But now, maybe because I'm older, more mature, maybe because of, I've spent 10 years on the construction side too, and learning the pros and cons of downstream use of the models, good or bad, downstream. But now my focus or my goal is more lines of, I just want everyone to be using models. I don't even care if it's Revit, and I want it to be, cradle to grave. I believe that the model driven process of design and construction is the better way forward. And I feel like because of that, the getting to that point, I don't, it's the more people I can get to produce better models and do things better in Revit, and actually the more people I can get to actually model, the better that goal in my life would be, right? And so it's now it's like it almost hurts me. It almost hurts us to not share this information, because we want people to create the better stuff. And then throughout that process, the one thing about giving away information is, when you talk about brand, it aligns right with brand, right? There's an immediate trust that someone's going to have in you when you share that kind of stuff, right? If I sat back and said, well, I'm not really going to answer that one, because that's for me to only know, or something like that, like, you'd immediately be like, screw this guy, right? It's like no, like the if you're willing to share tools, processes, how-tos, etc., you're immediately going to build an audience that trusts you. And then the same goes for clients. If you're an architect or an engineer, right? If I if I went online and I saw a 15-part video series of an architect designing a project with a client, and like they show it exactly how they do it from start to finish, etc. Yeah, technically we're showing them exactly what the architect did, but at the same time, like I would be super stoked to hire that person, and because now I know the background of it, I know what they're doing, I know how much they care, the amount of time and detail they put into it, the amount of and I don't think anyone's actually going to be able to to fully execute on that anyways. But yeah, so I think to go along with the brand thing, I think they kind of go hand in hand.
I think that's a great point. And again, it brings us right around to a little bit past our half-hour mark. And
Oh,
I
yes.
think I know the answer to this next question, but maybe you can curate it for us. But we
Sure.
always end each episode with asking the guest du jour for their hack for the episode. So in this case, we've been talking about content creation. So what would your hack be for those starting or those that have been doing it that want to improve?
I think I would say the hack is to put yourself out there and say yes. So, or you don't have to say yes. I guess whether like submit a session for a conference. If you're part of a local AIA group or something and they're looking to do for presentation, like everyone out there probably has something that they can share. If you, I guarantee you that you do. And so by doing that, right, that's step one. Is you're gonna be forced to curate a piece of content that you're sharing in whatever format, on a Zoom call, at a local presentation, at a conference, whatever it is, at a local college, whatever. And when you do that, record yourself, and then take that recording and chop it up and use it on social media and see what happens. Right? I if I was to start from scratch, that's exactly what I would do right now. Right? Take a call just like this. Obviously you're going to chop it up, but I could also take it, chop it up into 17 different pieces and move it on. And I'm still doing that right now. I mean, I just did an AIA presentation for AIA Columbus, South Carolina, and I recorded it. I asked them permission ahead of time, and now I have this content that I could chop up and put over there, and that's a perfect way to start. So there's a lot of things that you would gain from doing that, right? There's the public speaking part, there's recording yourself and seeing it back afterwards, and then you've got content. Like that could probably be 4 videos if you did a 1-hour presentation, if not more. And then it could be 4 videos on YouTube. It could be 10 snips for YouTube Shorts. It could be 10 tweets and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden you're starting your content creation journey.
I like it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate this.
Well, we've loved you being on the show, and of course, it always comes to that time where we sign off. So, thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, the podcast where we explore tools, technologies, and those time-saving hacks, as we just heard, reuse, that are shaping the future. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe again somewhere down here, and stay tuned for more insights in the exciting world of AECO and technology. And until next time, keep building, innovating, and exploring the possibilities.